class, what we discussed is the structure of macromolecules, and we ended up with the structure of DNA. In today's class, we have to discuss from the rest of the aspects of what is left of biomolecules. Okay, so that would be, we should start from enzymes basically. So before we start from enzymes, there is a small concept about what is metabolism. So we have to understand that. Okay. So in today's session, we will talk about the idea of metabolism and how do we understand metabolism and why it is so significant for us to understand. So we know that every living organism has to survive, and for the survival, it requires energy. Correct? No, it requires energy. So if you just trace back to what we studied from the beginning of biomolecules, we understand that all the living material that we have, like in the form of cells or in the form of tissues or in the form of organs or organ systems, the construction of this was made by simple materials. So we classified them as biomicromolecules and biomacromolecules for our understanding. Biomacromolecules or biomicromolecules defines what? It is the life molecules. For example, bio means living, and molecules are the ones that make the part of this living, correct? No? It might be your carbohydrates, it might be your lipids, it might be your nucleic acids, it might be any of these things that we, proteins like amino acids, it can be anything. But when we traced a little back lower, like when we conducted this, destructive methods, or when we started analyzing the living samples, what did we understand? We understood that all living organisms consist of basic minerals, such as it can be sodium, it can be potassium, it can be calcium, it can be phosphorus, correct? No, it can be magnesium, it can be chlorine, it can be carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur. So you know that when you burn the living tissue after dehydration, correct, right? So what did we do? We took the living tissue, whether it is plant tissue or animal tissue, we removed all the water from it, and then we burnt it. When we analyze the ash, ash, after burning, you get the ash. So when we analyze the ash of this living tissue, we got some of the minerals such as sodium, potassium, calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, chlorine, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, to name a few. So where can you find this? We understood that, including hydrogen. I just mentioned hydrogen, which is quite important. Anyways, we understood that this is nothing so different from that of Earth, correct? No? If you check the earth, that is the soil samples, if you just collect the soil samples and see what is soil made up of, you will end up seeing the same minerals. And if you take the living tissue and then if you burn it after dehydration, and then if you see what are the atoms or what are the elements that are present here, it is the same elements that is found in the earth, but the level or the ratio of what it is found, it might be a little different. It is very obvious we can't be exactly same as earth because we are living organisms. What does it give us? What idea does it give us? It gives us that, see, earth is a non-living or abiotic thing, let's say object, correct? No, the soil is abiotic, the air is abiotic, the water we drink is abiotic, but these things are enabling us to survive. So how is the survival happening? So if you look at all living organisms, so the life on earth is very, very, what do you tell, intelligence. It is very intelligent. Why? Because we have learned the process of using things. Okay, we have learned the process of using things. Let us take an example of a tree. So I will take an example of a tree or a plant. If I take an example of a tree or a plant, how is this tree or a plant surviving? For the tree or a plant to survive, what does it require, guys? It requires energy, correct? No? It requires what? Energy. So where does it get its energy from? The energy comes from utilization of abiotic things, such as it can be the minerals, it can be the oxygen or carbon dioxide, or it can be water. So these three things it uses for it to enable life, correct? No, for it to enable life. But if you observe the tree or if you observe any living organisms, how is it getting this? It absorbs all these minerals through the soil using its roots. It consumes oxygen and it uses the carbon dioxide for the construction of what, guys? It constructs what? C6H12O6. Or it breaks down C6H12O6, that is the glucose, into ATP and water. Correct? No? That is the metabolism. That means it breaks down its energy. It breaks down the food material to produce energy. So that is why it is using. And water is a very, very important aspect for many of the biological process. So our life is very intelligent. That's what I started this session with. So if our life is very intelligent, how can I say what is the intelligence I'm defining? Our life has understood the value of something called as making and breaking. Making and breaking. So these two important mechanisms are involved for the process of life to continue. Very simple, correct, right? So these two process is very important for the life to continue. What am I talking about? Let's say that so, the guys all of you guys, the guys from Minikoi or JNV or Sanjana or the LD Bali guys or Anupriya, who are all sitting here. If I ask you guys, what did you have for lunch? What would you say? You would say, some of you would say chapati. Some of you would say, I had rice. Some of you would be lucky. Maybe some people like non-veg. You might say egg or a chicken or something like that. So what did you guys do? You consume food. If you observe the food you're eating, let's say that we take rice, or if we take, let's say, chicken, let me not be biased, vegetarian or non-vegetarian. In simple language, if I take an example of chicken, okay, which is easy, that's not that I'm promoting, okay, chicken. So if I take this, it's meat, and you say that it is made up of proteins, correct? No? So if I eat chicken, do I get chicken proteins? So let's say that somebody, example, they have the leg piece or the chicken wings. Do you get chicken wings? No. What does our body do with this meat? Our body uses several chemicals and several enzymes to break down this complex chicken meat into what? It breaks down proteins into peptides, and peptides into amino acids. Is it made up of only protein? Not at all. There is what? Carbohydrates. Carbohydrate. Carbohydrate is broken down into what? Very quick energy, that is glucose. Again, lipids. Lipids is broken down into what? The chicken lipids cannot be used as chicken lipids. My body deserves a different type of lipid. It needs a different type of lipids. Why? I want to construct my cell membrane. What is a cell membrane made up of? We have studied this. It is made up of phospholipids. Similarly, other fats called as triglycerides. So your mom or the guys who are cooking in your kitchen, they use oil, they use ghee, they use any fat molecules to make it more tasty. Anyways, food is food, guys. So what are we getting? We are breaking down lipids into phospholipids, triglycerides, or monoglycerides. So what are we doing with this? The complex material is broken down into simpler material. So this process is called as the breaking process. The breaking process becomes a very, very important or the starting process for most of the animal kingdom. Correct? We are animals. We are all animals. So we are not photosynthetic. We are all depending on energy for on plants or animal sources. So when we are depending on somebody, our first important process becomes what? Breaking it. So that means when I take a plant and eat, I chew. So that is breaking. If I take an animal and I eat, what do I do? The first process I do is breaking. So this breaking process becomes the first process in your heterotrophs, and making becomes the first process in your autotrophs. So making in plants, breaking in animals becomes their first process. Correct, right? So see, look at how beautiful the circle of life goes around. They say that you all think that the plants are the most shanti people. Correct? No, they're very, very calm. They're peaceful. They don't hurt us. They're always minding their job. They don't talk, neither they move. They're all doing their things. But you don't understand the meaning of what the plants are capable of. Imagine, guys, what happens after we die? We are buried. What happens after we are buried? The microorganisms break down our tissues, our bones, our muscles, and everything into simpler molecules. Correct? No? So once this breaking down is done, who uses this? With that humus of you, a plant uses this humus to construct energy. That means whatever you are, you become simpler and finally end up becoming the plant products. And what happens to that plant? Maybe our next generation, or like us now, we eat these plants. Correct? No? For example, I had what? I had chapati and curry today. What is my chapati made up of? Wheat grains. What is my curry made up of? Maybe coriander leaves or palak or paneer, whatever it is. It is made up of a plant product. Paneer is not a plant product, but I'm saying you. You understand this point? So these two process, life has understood. So how do I break and make? Okay, how do I break and make? The complex things are broken down into simpler forms, and again, these simpler forms are used to make the complex products. So this is a circle of life in which both plants and animals they participate in making sure that this is done to provide what ultimately energy. Ultimately, energy is required. Either you use energy or you make energy to make sure all your life functions are possible. Now, what am I talking about? In simple terms, this biochemical reactions that takes place in all living organisms to continue, okay, is called as metabolism. So, metabolism is the biochemical reactions in which all organisms follow, all organisms or cells take part in to make sure the engine of life continues. Now, you see, in if you observe a living organism, it is like a system. It is like a, let's say, you have, I will make you understand in a very simple term. You understood what is metabolism. It is a simple biochemical process that makes sure that your engine of life is running. Okay. Now let us assume that you have two beakers. Okay. You have two beakers. And let's say that in one beaker, I have high sugar. One second, guys. Yes. I'm sorry, there was a little bit of disturbance. Anyways, in one beaker, there is high sugar levels. In one beaker, there is low sugar. Okay, now there is low sugar. Now, this is all dissolved in a water. So it's a sugar solution. Let's say that it is a sugar solution. Okay, now my question is, guys, if I connect these two beakers, okay, and make, oh, sorry, and make sure that the solutions can pass through from one beaker to another beaker after some time, what would happen? I want you guys to answer this question. What will happen with these if these two systems are connected? Okay, what will happen, guys, after some time? Can you answer me? I hope everybody is understanding and attentive. So please try to answer. It's okay if you're wrong, or your opinions are totally welcome. What will happen? One beaker means you vessel, let's say vessel. I have a solution which contains high sugar. In another beaker, I have more water and less sugar, and I have connected these two systems. What will happen after some time? So this is my question. What will happen, guys? Anybody? Are you guys here? See, you can unmute, you can text, or you can give reactions. Okay. So it's not restrictive class, so feel free to answer because I'm talking. So I need you guys to participate. It'll become more interesting, isn't it? So we have Mahalakshmi, Anupriya, guys from JNV and JNV Minikoi, and then Uday Meena. Rakshita, Sanjana, and Jane Vivali, LD. Okay. So, guys, tell me what will happen if I connect to this system? It's very important. If you answer this, it'll understand the whole thing. Any clue? Okay. Chalo. I will leave you to answer this. Anyways, you try to give your opinions. Don't worry if I have even explained it. Have you heard about diffusion? Diffusion or osmosis? What will happen with these two processes, guys? The substances from higher concentration. Yeah, perfect. Yes, sir. Yeah. Thank you, Sanjana. So we have substances which are higher concentration. They move towards a lower concentration. Correct, right? If I light an agarbatti at one point of the room, after some time, what will happen? It will move towards the other side of the room. So this is called as a diffusion process. Similarly, if I have high concentration of sugar in one beaker, and if I have the low concentration of sugar in the other beaker, after some time, what happens, guys? They will try to make sure that the high sugar goes towards the lower sugar. Does it happen forever? No. So if I have 100 molecules of sugar here, and if I have, let's say that I have around, my maths is very weak, but let's say that I have 50 molecules of sugar here. So from 100 to 50, the molecule starts moving until when the molecules of sugar will move until this I think 100 plus 50 is not, I think it is 150. 100 plus 50 is 150. So if I divide 150, what will I get? 75 and 75. So until my system reaches 75 molecules of sugar in one beaker and 75 molecules of sugar in other beaker, my sugar molecules will migrate from high sugar content to the lower sugar content, or high concentration to lower concentration. So this process is called as what? It is called as equilibrium. So any chemical system or any chemistry is crazy because it's all about balance. So every system fights to get the balance. Fights to get the balance. It wants a balance. It wants this equilibrium. That is why the molecules always move from higher concentration to lower concentration. Is this process happening in your body? We understand that metabolism results in what? Making and breaking and production and using of energy. That's it. But what is happening in your system? If you observe the human body, and our human body is a huge biochemical factory. It is a huge biochemical factory. Why do I tell that it is a huge biochemical factory? There are so many reactions happening simultaneously without disturbing each other's reaction. There is breaking down of carbohydrates, there is utilization of carbohydrates. There is a breaking down of nucleic acids, there is utilization of nucleic acids. There is movement of enzymes, there is movement of hormones, there is movement of ions happening within the cells, but none of them are interfering with other process. You see, imagine that you do a chemical experiment, you always make sure that your beakers are clean, your distilled water you are using for your chemistry experiments, and you make sure that you don't mix any wrong substance in your chemical reaction. Why? Because you know that the entire experiment would take a different turn and the results would be completely different. For example, you do titration in your laboratory. Would you allow the one small drop from your what do you call? I forgot the name of this. You have a beaker, and then you have that. I think it's a pipette. It's not the pipette. Somebody help me here. So you'll release the valve, isn't it, to release one drop, two drop, and make sure that, yeah. Maybe somebody help me. A pipette, yeah. Well, do you release totally? You release one drop after one drop. You're very careful. You just want to change it color. Why did you do this, guys? Because you don't want to make sure that you added more or less. You just want the analysis of the thing. Similarly, look at our body. Our body is going under thousands of biochemical reactions simultaneously. So, if I assume that my cell, let's say that you have one cell, guys. In your one cell is a beautiful system, like how this beaker is. Like that, each and every cell is one system. Similarly, I have my adjacent cells. I have my neighboring cells. Within this neighboring cells, what do I have? I have something called as intercellular spaces or interstitial spaces. Correct? No, there are intercellular spaces, or it is also called as intercellular fluids. So what's happening here? Here, for just a simple example, I can see that my cell is very well protected by a membrane. What is that membrane? Semi-permeable membrane. So it allows what is required. Let's say that I have in my cell one ion I will take. One ion. The most common ion that goes into an exchange is sodium or potassium. Okay, these are minerals, isn't it? So always the movement of the substances happen from higher concentration to lower concentration. You understand this point? Always the substance movement happens from what? Higher concentration to lower concentration. Now I have told you already, for the substances to move from higher concentration to lower concentration, it should be having the concentration barrier. That means it should have the difference in the molecules. Now, this difference will enable passive transport. That means without utilization of energy, I can move this glucose molecule from here to here only when there is higher concentration to lower concentration. The same thing applies even in your cells. In our cells, what will happen? The movement of the substances happen from higher concentration to lower concentration, but until when? Does it reach equilibrium? Can I make my body reach my equilibrium? Is it possible? If I take a breath, the oxygen molecules have to enter my lung sacs. From there, it has to be transported via blood. And from there, the tissues have to receive the oxygen. Now, imagine if the cells, if the two cells on the outside of the cells both have the same sodium concentration or same carbon dioxide concentration, will there be any reaction or will there be any transport happening in our biological system? So my question is, if you did not understand this, I will simplify my question. If my cells or if my body reach the state of equilibrium, will my body survive? That is my question. I want you to answer. So I know that you guys are shy to answer since it is the first time you are meeting. If you feel that the reactions will happen if my body reach to equilibrium, then give true. If you think that my reaction, okay, will not happen if I reach the equilibrium, then you give false. Okay. If you don't understand the question, should I repeat? My question is, guys, if my body reaches the equilibrium state, will my body be able to conduct any chemical reaction? If yes, you give true. If no, you give false. What do you think, guys? Is the poll launched? Yeah, false. So Rakshita says it's false. I want others to participate in this answer as well. Guys, please tell me what's your opinion. False. Anupriya also tells false. Very good. Very good. And the others? Yeah. And Mahalakshmi false. Others, guys, come on. I want one more vote. I want one more answer. So that we are in the democratic side of this discussion. Okay. One more person, please. If you think that, okay, one, two, three. One more. Yes. Somebody else answered. I'm sorry. I think Sanjana it is. Yeah. So I have got the votes, and obviously it's a majority. So let's see if the majority wins. And the answer is absolutely true. So you guys are saying that if my body reaches the equilibrium state, then body is dead. My body is what? Dead. Completely dead. Why? You know that our body is such a machine. It balances between the equilibrium and the non-equilibrium. It never allows any single molecule to reach the state of equilibrium. What is the state of equilibrium? Everything that is balanced from one system to another system. If I have higher concentration here, if I have lower concentration here, it tries to balance this difference. Until when? Until it is almost equilibrium but not equilibrium. You understand? So it allows the system to increase the concentration until when? Until it does not kill the cells. until it does not affect the biological system. Until then, you can increase the concentration. For example, if I have sodium ion concentration in a cell, I can increase to certain levels so that my cell feels okay. Once it doesn't feel okay, it diffuses to its surrounding. So once it diffuses to or diffuses to its surrounding, until when? Until almost an equilibrium is achieved, not the perfect equilibrium. So cell is such a dynamic system, or living body is such a dynamic system. All the biochemical reactions are in a non-equilibrium state. So it is always in a non-equilibrium state. It is almost equilibrium, but not equilibrium. See, guys, just you are smart enough. You guys are smart enough because you imagined in your head what would happen to my cell if it just decided, okay, guys, I don't want to work anymore. I don't want to transport anymore. It's just I just want to exchange and balance whatever I owe. My surrounding and me have to be in balance. If it decides that, trust me, guys, your cell has decided to die. Simple as that. Now, to understand, I'm telling this is not the process of death, but you understood, right? Excellent. Now you understood that the biological system is a dynamic system which is in a constant biochemical reactions with a non-equilibrium state. It is very weird. It is very different. Why? Because in a non-living system, if you see what is our first example of a non-living system? We took two beakers and we checked with two concentrations, one higher concentration, one lower concentration. What did we achieve? We achieved a stable equilibrium. There was no problem at all. But if you see the same chemical reaction in your body does not allow it to achieve perfect equilibrium. If it achieves perfect equilibrium, trust me, your body and your molecules cannot function anymore to continue its function. Simple as that. Okay. So, such a beautiful thing. Metabolism, even though biochemistry is a pain in understanding, but it is the basement, it is the lowest level you can understand on how the life functions. You're all biology students. It's your luck to understand how the life operates on this planet. Okay. So anyways, so I hope you enjoyed this small discussion. So the next point is, we talked about there is a process called as metabolism, and we understood that roughly, very vaguely, what is a metabolism. Metabolism is a sum total of all the chemical reactions that is happening in your body, in simple terms. Okay, in simple terms, what is metabolism? Metabolism is a sum total of all biochemical reactions that is happening in your body. I told you that we can classify, excuse me, we can classify these biochemical reactions into two different things. One is making, other one is breaking. So these two has to continue. So this making and breaking can be divided into two important terms. What are those? One is called as an anabolic reaction. Other one is called as a catabolic reaction. Anabolism and catabolism are the two faces of the coins. Okay, anabolism and catabolism are what? They are the two faces of the same coin. So let's understand this. Where did we start from? If I eat a plant, or if I eat some meat, let's say chicken, okay, which is very easy, or egg, guys, egg, okay, or egg. So if I eat these two, what am I doing? So let's say that I get from both of them proteins. So can I use these proteins? Does my body use proteins? No. I use my mouth to break them into smaller pieces. Then I swallow. It goes to my stomach. It reacts with the stomach's HCl. The role of my HCl, which is in the stomach, what does it do? It breaks the proteins into smaller particles. The smaller particles which our HCl can do is break my proteins into peptides, peptide chains. So next it is going to the small intestine. In the small intestine, what does it do? It uses something called as proteases, an enzyme. The proteases, what it will do? It will break the peptide into amino acids. AA or amino acids, I'll write it here, okay? It breaks into amino acids. So what happens to these amino acids? These amino acids will be taken up by the blood. So it will get absorbed in the blood. Through the heart, it goes to every cell. I'll write it here, guys. Sorry. So it goes to what? Every single cell. What happens in the cell? Our cell uses these amino acids. I hope you can see here. If you cannot see, please tell that I cannot see. So it uses these amino acids to make its own peptide chains, and then it will use this peptide chains to modify into required proteins. And then my growth, my cell division, my repair, my other biological functions are all carried on by these proteins. This is the same fate for every single biomolecule. If, for example, if I take carbohydrates, if I take sucrose, okay, so you know that, for example, lactose, glucose plus galactose, maltose, glucose plus galactose, okay. For example, sucrose, glucose plus fructose, or if I take cellulose, the polymer of glucose. See, there are complex molecules. What do? I break them down to get the smallest molecule called as the glucose. And what do I use the glucose for? Either I use the glucose for the ready-made source of energy, or if I have the excess glucose, I make sure that I can store this glucose into storable form called as glycogen. Similarly, what happens to the lipids? I break down these lipids, the complex lipids, into simpler triglycerides. What do I use these glycerides to? I use these glycerides for the construction of the lipids that my body requires, like the fat molecules that is in your adipose tissue to give your insulation or storage of food or storage of energy. Are you understanding, guys? Yeah. So what happened here? The first process where the proteins were broken down into simple peptides and the simple peptide chains were further broken down into amino acids. This process is called as the breaking process, and it is also called as catabolism. So whenever I break something, for example, I will ask you a question. What is the currency of energy in our living organism? For example, if I have to buy something, I pay money. Similarly, for ourselves, what is the currency of energy? What is the simpler energy molecule that is present in our body? Somebody answered ATP. Anupriya, very good, very good. That was very fast of you to answer this question. Okay, so others, uh, any other opinion you have? Hold on, guys. ATP. So even Sanjana feels it is ATP. Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct, guys. So whether you break down proteins, whether you break down carbohydrates, whether you break down lipids, our cells make sure that their energy is stored in the form of this molecule called as ATP, called as adenosine triphosphate. So how do we use this ATP? We make sure, see, when I break down, if complex molecule, a huge amount of energy is released through the chemical bonds. See, let's say that I have amino acids. I may have amino acids which are in a form of chains connected to each other in a polypeptide chain. For example, if I take a peptide molecule, it is made up of series of amino acids. Similarly, if I take cellulose, it is made up of series of glucose molecules. So if I break down one glucose and other glucose bond, so it is a covalent bond. When I break this down, energy is released. Okay, this huge amount of energy released cannot be wasted. So what does our body do? When I break down these complex molecules, this energy is stored in the form of chemical bonds. How does it do? It takes an AMP molecules and it brings the two phosphates. Okay, it takes the help of two phosphates to construct. It uses its energy to make sure it converts this AMP into ATP. So it has ATP. I did the work. What did I do? I break the complex into simple. When I break something, I release a lot of energy. So this release of energy is stored. Our cells know how to store this released energy in the form of chemical bonds. And the simpler example we can track is the most used energy currency, that is our ATP. Our ATP is the uh, most common currency for the energy. So that is why you see here that AMP is converted into ATP. How does it conversion takes place? When during the process of my breaking down, I use this whatever the release energy to store it in the form of chemical bonds. You understand? So this is called as catabolism. So catabolism is breaking. The breaking leads to the release of energy. Your body gets energy out of it. Correct? No? Imagine that you didn't have breakfast and then you have nice coffee or you have a chocolate, what happens to your body? Your mind becomes fresh. Your body feels energized. How? Your body got the any immediate source of energy. So that happened through the source, that happened through the reaction of catabolism. You understand? Next is what is anabolism. What is anabolism? See, investment and returns are the two important phases of any process. You have to invest and you have to utilize. You cannot just tell, oh, I want to get only energy. Is it possible? No. Let's say that you have spent a long day. I know that it is a long day and it's almost 4:40 in the time. By now, your body has been through a lot. Listening to the lectures that you're not interested, or listening to the lectures that you are too interested, writing tests, okay, talking to your friends, going for a jog in the ground or working out. You have done a lot. Now your body is tired, a little bit tired. So your body has gone through some damage. Your cells are almost dying. Some cells are dying. So this replenishment has to happen. That's why you sleep. Correct? No, you sleep. But when you wake up, you're re-energized. You feel that you're all fresh, you're all energized, you feel very awake. What happened to this process? So our body has key process called as growth, repair, regeneration, and production. So these are some of the things that your cells have to perform on a regular basis. It has to produce more new products. It has to regenerate. It has to repair. It has to repair itself. And it also have to make sure that you grow. You become tall. You have gained weight. So, or you know, the missing cells have to be replaced. For example, if you have a cut, if you fall down, it has to be replaced. So all that comes under the cells process. For this, anabolism is required. To construct a new cell membrane, to divide a new cell, you require DNA. Correct? No? To make a new cell, you require DNA or genetic material. You require so many small things to make the bigger thing. For that, all the small molecules that you have achieved or you have created through catabolism. What did we get through catabolism? Amino acids, glucose, simple glycerides, okay, simple glycerides, and in any other biomolecules we can think about. Nucleic acids, for example, nucleotides. So these are all the simplest form your body has manufactured, right? So what do we do? Our cells, they start undergoing the process of anabolism. So what do they do? For example, if I have to make a protein, what do? I take many amino acids which are present in the cells. I arrange them in a proper way and I make sure that they attach with each other with the chemical bonds and then I create a polypeptide chain. So this is called as the construction process. For the construction process, I have to make sure that I invest my energy. Oh, sorry. Yeah. What is my energy investment here? I use my ATP molecules. I convert them into ADP or AMP, adenosine monophosphate or adenosine diphosphate. So when I break this triphosphate into diphosphate or monophosphate, so what is happening? Energy is released. So when the release of energy is used for the construction of new bonds. So when I use the release energy to construct, this is called as what? Using. This is what is called as releasing. Correct? No. I know you guys understand what is the catabolism or what is metabolism. Within 2 minutes, we can define what is catabolism and metabolism. But if you just visualize and detailedly observe how the living process is happening, it makes it more interesting. That's why I had to push my lecture this far. Did you guys understand catabolism and metabolism, or did you understand this lecture? Are you able to understand my language? Can you say yes, no, anything? Any reaction, guys? So if you have any problems, you can just tell me, sir, I'm not able to follow. Okay, yes, sir, very well. Thank you, guys. That's very encouraging and I very much appreciate it. Okay, yeah. So one key thing that you have to observe in need is it's all based on examples. So we know the thing, we know the definition, and we know what happens to this process. But remember the examples. If I talk about anabolism, that is when I use the acetic acid for the production of cholesterol. That means simple to complex. Acetic acid to the conversion of cholesterol. It is an example of anabolic process. If I use simple amino acids for the construction of complex proteins, it is an example of anabolic process. The photosynthesis process, that is using carbon dioxide, using water, using light for the production, okay, sorry, plus light for the production of glucose in plants. So this is also an example of anabolic process. Similarly, if I talk about catabolic process, if I have glucose and if I convert it into lactic acid or glycogen, this is a process of catabolism. See, most of you guys will confuse the conversion of glucose to lactic acid is what kind of metabolism. So now you're stuck because you don't know what's happening there. We will understand when we detailedly go into some of the key biochemical process during some of the chapters that is coming further, but you will forget it most probably. That is why acetic acid to cholesterol is an anabolic process. Glucose to lactic acid is a catabolic process. So we break down this glucose into lactic acid. So please remember the examples. I definitely believe you guys, and I know this, I know you guys definitely know what it means, but examples are very hard to remember. So make sure that you categorize these examples and you write down these examples very thoroughly rather than the complete definitions. Got it? No? And other one is respiration. What is respiration? For example, I am a human being. So I have glucose in my cells. What do my cells do? My cells use oxygen and break this glucose into ATP, water, and carbon dioxide. So this breaking down of glucose to release ATP is called as what? A catabolic process. So if they give respiration is a what kind of a process, don't think much. Just go for catabolic process. If they ask photosynthesis is what kind of a reaction, you just go for anabolic. Got it? No? So the examples are very critical, guys. Chalo. So when you see the whole metabolic process, what you can understand is we as a organism, any organism, we produce something called as two different types of outputs are there. Like for example, if we do a process, we have an output for that process. No, what is the result? What is the end result of what we have done? So if you see the end result of all these biochemical reactions, you can see that our body produces two types of metabolites. What is a metabolite? Metabolite is the result of the sum total of chemical reactions. For example, if I have any glucose and by the end of the metabolism, I have ATP. Okay, that is called as a metabolite. Okay, and similarly, if I have proteins and the end result of metabolizing protein is what? Getting amino acid. So that is a metabolite. So you can categorize on what type of metabolites are produced in our body. One category of metabolites are called as primary metabolites. Okay, these are called as primary metabolites. And a second category is called as secondary metabolites. So what is the difference between these two? Hold on. Now, what is the difference between these two? The primary metabolites, examples can be amino acids, glycerides, glyceride, and it can be nucleotides. It can be uh, glycerides, amino, glucose. It can be glucose. It can be minerals, etc. Okay. What are primary metabolites? See, amino acid is very, very important because it participates in the life process. Glycerides are very important because it participates in the construction of cell molecules. Nucleotides is very important because it is responsible for the production of nucleic acids like DNA and RNA. Glucose is responsible because it enables the cell functions, it energizes the cell functions. 70% of the energy is coming from the glucose source. So that is why it is also participating in the life functions. Mineral ions are very, very important for enzymatic reactions. It can participate as a vitamins, or it can also participate as cofactors for enabling the enzymatic reactions. That means all the primary metabolites, they directly or indirectly are very responsible for the life process or cell functions. They have to be there for the cell to function normally. Without their presence, your body will be defective, or the cell will be defective, or some problem will be happening in the smooth functioning of this machine. You understand? So these are must. Primary metabolites are very, very, very important for the continuity of this biochemical or the life process of a cell. What are secondary metabolites? Secondary metabolites are the byproduct of the metabolism, but their production is never involving. See, this is also a production. Amino acid, glycerides, nucleotides, glucose, mineral ions, all of them are the byproducts, but they are reutilized. But in secondary metabolites, the production is not necessary for the life functions. It does not participate in any life functions. They are just the byproduct of your metabolism, but they are not essential for the cell functions. So the examples of secondary metabolites are very, very crucial here. What are those? We have pigments. See, secondary metabolites can be pigments, alkalides, terpenoids, essential oils, toxins, lectins, drugs, polymeric substances. Human beings are very smart. Somehow, some of these metabolites have been used for human usage in our society, and some of the metabolites have resulted in creating a deadly poisons. Some of the metabolites have a huge economic value. Some of the metabolites, they have beautiful visual perspectives, auditory perspectives, or fragrance perspectives where you feel good about it. Okay, so we use this directly or indirectly for our gains or for our harm. Let's see them. So the pigments, if you look at pigments, you have carotenoids and we have anthocyanins. So these are the examples of pigments. Carotenoids you can see in your carrot. Anthocyanins you can see in your leaf pigments or flower pigments. Alkaloids, morphine and codeine. Both of these alkaloids are used as medicine. Morphine is used as a sedative during your surgeries to make sure that you don't get pain when the doctor cuts your tissues. Similarly, codeine is used for the treatment of cold or any of the lung constrictions. Terpenoids, you have monoterpenoids and diterpenoids. Essential oil, lemongrass, which is used as a treatment as well as it is used as for the fragrance. Next one, you have toxins. You have arbutin and ricin. Ricin is one of the deadly seeds. It is a seed. So the seed, the ricin seed contains a compound called as ricin. This is used by spies. You know, spies, maybe all of you might get very interested in the spy movies. Raw agency, you know, Raw or NSA, you have FBI. So if they want to kill somebody who they don't like, the best option is ricin. And this information is not so good. Why? Because it is quite sensitive. But anyways, ricin has such a deadly poison. And this poison, when it is used, it can kill a person through by heart attack. But if you see any use of poison, toxins, guns, bullets, or if you use any knife or any object to kill a person, you can trace the criminal and catch them, no doubt. But ricin has such applications that it is untraceable. It is untraceable. So that's why they have given specifically ricin. Ricin has a very cool stories, but also concerning stories. Okay. So anyways, you understand this? So ricin seeds can be used to kill people without getting caught. Okay. You will never get hands on it. Don't worry about it. Okay. Next one is lectins. Lectins you have, see, this word is very, very important. Concalvalin. So concalvalin A, which is used for the manufacturing of some of the medicines. So you might not be aware of cancalvalin. Please make sure that cancalvalin is a type of a secondary metabolite which comes under the category of lectins. Clear? No? Next, you have drugs. What are drugs? We have vanblastin and curcumin. So vanblastin and curcumin. Please study why they are used and how the applications are. Okay. Next one is your polymeric substances. You know the application of rubber, you know the application of gums and cellulose. The tires we use, the glove we use is coming from rubber. The gums that we use is used for the manufacturing of several type of plant gums. Okay, for manufacturing of certain artifacts or for manufacturing of certain glue substances during the carpentry or something like that, etc. And the cellulose, which is a very, very hardest polymeric substances that is found, is used for a lot of furniture products. Okay. The hardness of wood is defined by the presence of cellulose. Okay. Your job is, guys, to make sure you remember all these examples under the category of secondary metabolites. Clear? So please do not neglect this. I know that it is hard for you to remember, but since you have 50% of the marks that is coming from your biology for your NEET examinations, you have to make sure that the examples and the pictures and category is remembered and written down somewhere very separately. I can bet at least one question is coming from this particular slide, secondary metabolites. Is it clear, guys? Are you understanding or are you following me? Yes, no? Aryan Tiwari from the YouTube. This chapter is from biomolecules. Okay, I'll just type it here. This is the final part of the biomolecules. Um, okay, I hope you guys are understanding here. Who are in the YouTube and the guys who are in the yeah, perfect. Chalo guys. So we have to wind up the session, which is almost time here. Before you go, please don't go. I've not winded up yet. So what I want is I usually I tell this to all the guys. So your job is not complete until I say it's complete. So since you have been here and you have listened to this class with such patience, so make sure that it doesn't go waste. And what you can do is you can help me with one part of it, okay? Which is must, guys, which is must.